RIDC 2016. We would like to congratulate SMK Sri Hartamas as well as SMK Damansara Hartama for reaching the grand finals. Before I start the finals, I'm going to introduce everyone to the judging panel. On my left is Rafiq Saladin from the Malaysian Institute for Debate and Public Speaking, Mr. Raj from University of Malaya, Mr. Kelvin Pillay from BAC, Ms. Alison Jong from University of Malaya, Mr. Kanda from Health University, and Ms. Aviana from De La Salle University, Philippines. My name is Jay. I'm from University of Technology Mara. I'll be chairing this round. Ms. Allison will be keeping time. She will ring the bell at the first minute, at the fourth, and twice at the fifth minute to indicate protected times. Just some house rules. Yeah, so she will now. Sure. Yeah. This is what the bell will sound like. Alright, just some house rules before we start the debate. Firstly, we would like to remind the audience to keep the chatter to a minimum. We would like to advise everyone to turn off their phones or keep it on silent mode. We would like to ask everyone to please not leave the room during speeches. Please exit or enter the room only in between speeches. Let's also support the teams that are in this final. The motion for the grand final reads that this House will not give humanitarian aid to members of militant groups which have been found to have committed crimes against humanity. Without further ado, I would like to invite the Prime Minister.
Every grain of rice is a bullet through the head. But before that, a very good morning to the honorable adjudicators, esteemed timekeepers, members of the government team, members of the opposition team, ladies and gentlemen. The motion for today is that this House would not give humanitarian aid to members of militant groups which have been found to commit crimes against humanity. For instance, civilian bombings and genocide and rape. We define humanitarian aid as material or logistical assistance provided for humanitarian purposes, typically in response to humanitarian crises, including natural and man-made disasters. We define militant as a favoring confrontational or violent method in support of a political or social issue. And we define humanity as a quality of being humane. The status quo of the situation is that the United States gives humanitarian aid to militant groups. And we from the government team stand for the fact that once you've acted inhumanely, you lose the right to be treated like a human in times of distress. I, as the Prime Minister, will be speaking about why giving humanitarian aid is a step backwards to fight against these forms of militant groups. My second speaker will be giving 2 more extensions, and the third speaker will be rebutting the opposition points. Now let me be very clear that the militant groups that we're talking about today are not freedom fighters like the Hamas who are fighting for independence in Israel. We're talking about militant groups who are extremists like the ISIS, like Al-Qaeda and the Boko Haram. Now our mechanism to overcome this problem is to take away humanitarian aid from them. So how did ISIS even come about in the first place? Well, the United States was funding a group in Iraq, a militant group in Iraq, because they were trying to fight the leader. And once that was over, the ISIS came and take over and now have the resources to carry out crimes against humanity. Have we all seen the video of the man who was put inside a cage and burnt alive? Have we not seen the video of a man who had his head chopped off in a public audience? Now let's even talk about Al-Qaeda. The 9/11 occurrence that happened almost 20 years ago now, and people have not gotten over the fact that this has been such a huge issue. Yes?
Funding freedom fighters which were fighting against Syria is not a form of humanitarian aid. It is a form of support of a regime which the US government supported.
Thank you. Again, we are not supporting groups who are fighting for independence. We are taking away humanitarian aid from groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Boko Haram, who have been found to commit crimes like genocide, rape, and civilian bombings. Every day, innocent lives are being taken away because these people have resources. They have access to food, they have access to shelter, they have access to weapons and machinery. And these people have abused their rights and privileges, and yet we are still giving them the resources for these purposes. So why are we doing this? We from the government team strongly are against status quo. Yes?
Ma'am, if that's the case, would you then take away the rights, the housing, and all of the food which any single person who could potentially become an ISIS fighter gets?
Thank you. Again, the title of the debate is that people who have been found to already commit crimes against humanity. You are innocent until proven guilty. Next, we can talk about the Boko Haram, these Nigerian men who have kidnapped hundreds and hundreds of girls and raped them. These people, Al-Qaeda and the 9/11 incident that people have not been over up till today. The ISIS group who are still running strong to this day. Are you saying that you are willing to continue funding them and giving them the resources they need to continue carrying out these crimes? We are saying that what we want to do is that we concede to the fact that yes, there are risks that we are willing to take because we are trying to resolve these conflicts. Giving these people food is giving them the energy that will be the energy for them to pull the trigger, which would kill an innocent child. Giving them shelter makes it so that they can take another day to take in slaves and rape more women. Are we willing to do this? Ladies and gentlemen, there is only one race, and that is the human race. And to overcome this conflict and to preserve our future generations, the government team strongly stands with our stand that is once you act inhumanely, you lose the right to be treated humanely in times of distress, which is why we want to take away humanitarian aid from militant groups that are extremists. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for that speech. To continue, I'd like to invite the leader of the opposition.
Is it fair for a man to be left to die when he hasn't been prosecuted, yet he is blamed for the actions of others? This is in line with the principle of side opposition today. Our stance is to give aid. Giving aid is important to both sides for humanitarian organizations. Everyone deserves their human rights, whether it be a civilian, a militant, innocent or guilty. This debate would take place in war-torn countries such as Syria and Iraq. Normally, these members of militant groups are coerced into joining them. Their lives are threatened. The lives of their families are threatened. They are forced to join these groups. And even when they join, not all of them commit war crimes. And even when they do commit war crimes, they are normally just forced to commit war crimes and are threatened. They can't leave these militant groups because if they leave, they'll be considered a traitor and they'll be killed. Our side believes that aid should be given to anyone, whether anyone, innocent, guilty, civilian, militant, whatever. They may come out later and say that if we provide aid, they can leave and join. But I tell you this, most of the time, when people come seeking medical help, they are normally unable to rejoin the army. They are incapacitated. They can't rejoin. And this also gives them an opportunity for those who want to flee from these organizations to get the help they need. Yeah. We will also offer rehabilitation for those undergoing behavioral disorders such as PTSD. Now before I move on to my points, I would like to have a few rebuttals on the first speaker. She claims that we should only give aids to those who are prosecuted. We should only give aids to those who aren't prosecuted. But in a real war situation, there is no time for prosecution of these people to happen. Humanitarian organizations should give help to everyone who deserves it, who needs it. There's no time for them. There's no time for the court to decide whether they are innocent or guilty. They also claim that humanitarian aid is giving weapons to ISIS and all that. That is not humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is organizations like Red Cross will provide medical help, food and shelter to these people. Now on to my argument about innocence. We've already established that many of these people are coerced into joining. Their lives and the lives of their family are threatened into joining. They are forced to commit crimes against humanity even if they don't want to. And even if they disobey these orders, the militant groups will just get someone else to do it. It is not, let me stress that it is not the duty of humanitarian organizations to decide who is innocent or who is guilty. And even if they are guilty for their crimes, which only the court could decide, we should still give them aid so that they can be rehabilitated and punished for their crimes. At the same time, the thousands who could not flee from these militant groups and did not want to do any wrong will be given the aid they need. We should not blame a whole group for the actions of a few. We should not blame all Muslims for the act of a few terrorists. Even in history, we have not prosecuted foot soldiers who were only carrying out orders. A good example is in the Nuremberg trials, which occurred in World War II, where the foot soldiers who were ordered to commit war crimes weren't prosecuted, but the generals who gave those orders were prosecuted. These generals could only be prosecuted and punished if they were alive, and giving retribution to the poor victims of the war. So, I conclude my speech with this. If you are on the side that believes in giving people a second chance, if you are on the side that believes in peace, if you are on the side that believes in humanity, then go with side opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech. To continue, I would like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister here.
Yes. Killings of thousands by ISIS. All these are done by military groups such as Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab. And do you want all these militant groups in your country to come to your house and threaten the lives of your children and of your family? Today, before I start, I would like to first read and say a very good afternoon to the honorable adjudicators, team government, team opposition, and ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are gathered here to debate on why this House would not give humanitarian aid to members of militant groups which have been found to have committed crimes against humanity. And I would like to reaffirm what my Prime Minister has stated, that we will be discussing about militant groups that are considered as extremists. Today, our stance would be the moment you acted inhumanely, the rights to be treated as human in times of distress, you should not be receiving that right. And before I begin with my argument, I would like to rebut on a couple of points that were stated, on a set of points that were stated by the leader of the opposition. The leader stated that members of militant groups who are innocent shouldn't be blamed. But the motion clearly states that we do not want to give humanitarian aid to members of militant groups that already committed crimes against humanity. And furthermore, you stated that all these people may be forced to join. And I say that you had a choice. This is why Western countries are receiving refugees from all these countries. You have a choice to flee when you know that ISIS is coming. And lastly, you stated that these people, they may be forced to commit all these crimes against humanity. But whether you're forced or not, you are still guilty. You can be forced, you can say, environment forced me to steal, to kill someone, but you will still be charged for murder.
If somebody has a gun to your head, and under the law, you would not be prosecuted for carrying out an action that would normally be illegal, why should that principle not also apply to this situation?
But what you're saying is, if I, like, in a life and death situation, why can't I join? Yes?
Okay, I'm saying, in a situation under the law, when you are forced and you have no choice in this life and death situation, you are allowed to do things which would normally be illegal without being prosecuted.
Right, thank you. Right, let me say, the whole point of being human, we should not, we are, like what was stated by my Prime Minister, we are all one race, we are all human race. And this comes back to a person's morale. If you, as a person, think that you, by joining all these groups, you will be hurting others, don't you think it is the wise thing to do is to not join and maybe risk getting hurt or getting killed? In my opinion, that we should focus on the greater good instead of just ourselves. But I'll move on with my arguments. The first argument that was stated by my Prime Minister is that by not giving militant groups humanitarian aid, by giving them, it's actually a step back in fighting against these militant groups. And I would like to strengthen our case by giving the point, which is by not giving them aid, it is a legit strategy to incentivize people from joining these militant groups. So whether you're in a militant group or not, humanitarian aid is already provided equally. So this means that these groups of militants are also receiving all these privileges. So they don't feel any threat towards them. So the moment we stop any form of these, we are actually making them think, should I join? Because now I'm still receiving help whether I'm in or not. But when we stop that, we're making them think whether if I join, all these aid won't be here for me anymore. And this will make them think, this will also make them think whether I should continue staying in these militant groups. And most of these members of militant, they join for protection of their family, or for protection of, or also out of pure passion to protest. But humanitarian aid in the form which includes protection will not be, when these are not provided to all these militant groups, this will make them think twice before joining or even staying in. So we tell you that this entirely defeats the whole purpose in the first place. People who are already in the groups will now be hesitant to stay, and people who are already in, who are not in yet, would not want to join, and it clashes with their interests. So this is a win-win situation. Not only we are overcoming the problem that people will be joining, we're also overcoming the problem by making people leave the group. In conclusion, I want to reaffirm our stance, which is when you act inhumanely, you lose the right to be treated like humans in times of distress. Therefore, we should not give humanitarian aid to these militant groups. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that speech. To continue, I would like to invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Is it really fair to blame a group of thousands of people for the actions of a few when they had no choice but to join? Something which was even mentioned in the second speaker, that a lot of these people are joining because the lives of their families and their villages have been threatened. We tell you that it is abhorrent that they could propose that we should condemn all of these thousands of people who have not been convicted of being guilty simply for the actions of a few. Now, I'm going to tell you today what the goals of a humanitarian organization are and why, by not providing aid to these militant groups, it is counterproductive to achieving those goals. But before that, a few rebuttals onto what was said by the Prime Minister and the Deputy. Now, they said that under our side, we are creating more terrorist groups by providing humanitarian aid. We tell you that that is not what is happening because they misunderstand what we mean by humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is actually just things like healthcare and logistics. We're not providing them with weapons. As a matter of fact, it's more likely on their side that they create more terrorists
Because now you send the idea and the message to society that the West is against you, that the West will only help the other people, the people who are invading your country and killing your family members, carrying out drone strikes on your villages, even though you are innocent and they have no proof that you are guilty. And then they want to make these arguments that they will only punish those who are guilty and have been convicted of being guilty. We tell you that in a state of war, you cannot hold a trial and decide who is guilty and who isn't guilty before you commit these crimes. So you must generalize all of these people into a single group. And even if they are guilty of their actions, we still think that you should give these people humanitarian aid. Now, before I carry on to my points, yes.
You stated just now that humanitarian aid is in the form of healthcare, right? So when you said healthcare, aren't you providing these militant groups healthy people to fight?
Yes, and that is not a problem because it is not likely that every single person is going to join these militant groups again because they have been incapacitated. You likely have had your legs blown off, and even if they do join, I'm going to tell you in my speech why it would be counterproductive to not provide them aid then. Now, onto my points about what a humanitarian organization is. Humanitarian organizations are founded with the express purpose of protecting humanity, saving human lives. We tell you that under their side, what happens is that you reduce the capacity of a humanitarian organization to carry out this task. Why is this so? What happens when you only provide aid to one side in a conflict? What happens is you are seen as a combatant, an enemy of the other side. This means that you make yourself an enemy of these militant groups. This indirectly means that they are more likely to carry out attacks on you. Whereas if you are providing help to them as well, and you are a neutral party, this exempts you and this means that you are less likely and you probably will not get attacked at all. Under their side, you are imposing the idea that we are against you, therefore increasing the instances of attacks against dissenters, which are helping not only militants who are fighting for the just cause, let's call it, but you are also causing harm to civilians who are seeking aid within these centers. Now, this debate happens within two places. When militants are detained by governments and militaries as prisoners of war, as well as humanitarian organizations. Hazim already provided the overarching principles that every single person is innocent until proven guilty, and that we should not condemn everyone for their actions. And we also proved to you why we should allow these people to continue to live so that they can be punished for their actions if they are guilty. But it is not the place of a humanitarian organization to decide who is guilty and who is not, which is why we should provide aid to every single person. On top of that, by attacks being carried out against these humanitarian organizations, it means that there is a fear factor. It is less likely that humanitarian aiders will sign up to become doctors, will sign up to go to these war-torn areas, and at the same time, you cause extensive harm to these people who came to these countries with the intent of saving lives. You put their lives at risk as well, and while at the same time putting the lives of the civilians who are seeking aid in these communities at risk. So we tell you that it is actually counterproductive for you to put these understaffed humanitarian centers and put them in harm's way by only providing aid to one side. We proved to you that by implementing this policy of only allowing aid to be given to one side, that you will in fact indefinitely cause harm to one side more than the other. And we told you why it is unfair for you to condemn the lives of thousands for the actions of a few, where you do not know who is guilty and innocent, and you do not know whether they are being coerced into carrying out these actions. You do not know who is right and who is wrong. All's fair in love and war. We tell you that any side is fighting for a cause which they believe in, and that means that if you want to say that we should not kill people and these people should not join militant groups because they will cause harm to people, that is an argument against joining US military as well. We tell you that in war, nothing is right and nothing is wrong. And for these reasons, these humanitarian organizations must do everything in their power to protect humanity in these situations.
Very much for that speech. Just a reminder to the audience, please turn off your phones or turn it to silent mode. It's disruptive to the speakers if phones are ringing throughout the round. To continue, I would like to invite the government whip.
conflict will ultimately become the factor that leads to the downfall of society. Now, before I move on, allow me to say good morning to the honorary adjudicators, esteemed timekeepers, most accurate timekeepers, worthy oppositions, and the audience. Before I begin, allow me to reinstate the motion today, which is this House would only give out humanitarian aid to members, to militant groups which have been proven to commit wars against humanity. Now, the key word here is proven. And to me, it almost seems that the government team, the opposition team, has been ignoring the fact that they have already been proven to commit war crimes. I would just like to point that out. Now, allow me to move on to my rebuttals. Now, first of all, they said that humanitarian aid is not including giving them weapons, but however, you are still supporting them, you are giving them food, and this gives them more energy. They can go out and get the weapon, and actually, aid is actually also a form of security. I would just like to point that out. Aid is a form of security. Now, I would also like to emphasize on the solution, the alternative that they have given. They gave us the alternative of rehabilitation. However, ladies and gentlemen, they are giving a first world solution to a third world problem, and that is absolutely flawed. And even they, with their own words, that said you can only prove them guilty when you prosecute them. Well, that applies the same to rehabilitation, and they have absolutely contradicted their own argument there. And they also stated Now, they stated that nothing is right in war and nothing is wrong in war. But I believe that when your cause causes you to chop innocent people's head off, something is wrong in war. This is not war, this is flat out genocide. Genocide and war are two different things, I think. And when your cause causes you to chop people's head off, that is not war. Now, allow me to move on to the first speaker. Now, the first speaker started his speech by saying, everyone deserves right. And our main stance states that when you violate the rights of someone else, you lose the rights to your rights. And we even see this in the first world, in the modern society, where when someone does something wrong, their rights are compromised and they are put in prison. Yes?
Would you therefore allow somebody who gets shanked in prison to die on the floor in the prison and not give him any health care?
Yes, but these humanitarian groups are not behind prison. So we cannot, so giving them food is indirectly, not even indirectly, directly supporting them to kill more people. Thank you. Now, they said that some people are coerced into joining into these militant groups. Therefore, we should give them humanitarian aid. Now, let's examine an example here. Now, just because a group like ISIS, just because a group like Al-Qaeda has 2 or 3 innocent people, are you going to say it's justified to give them food which directly supports them to kill children? Which directly supports them to kill family members, which directly causes them to shatter the society itself and spread these improper ideologies. Just because they have a few innocent members, is that justified to give them this aid that causes them to kill people, to behead people, to burn people in cages? Is that really justified? Think about that for a second. And with that, I would like to reinstate some of the points that my team have made. Now, we said that when you violate the rights of someone else, you lose the rights to your own rights. We said that it's a legit strategy to incentivize people to stop being in a militant group. Now this, again, I repeat, if you take away humanitarian aid, you stop giving people the incentive to be in this militant group, so the innocent people actually have an effective medium to leave these militant groups when you stop giving them humanitarian aid. And now, we also stated that humanitarian aid is a step backwards because, again, you're providing them support to carry out these acts of war, and the alternatives that were given by the opposition team reflects naivety. Thank you. And with that, I reaffirm my team's case, which is this House would only give out humanitarian aid. This House would not give out humanitarian aid to militant groups that have been proven guilty of committing war crimes. Thank you.
For the speech to conclude the substantive portion of this debate, I would like to invite the opposition whip.
Sorry, composing myself. Yeah. So, right. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot use mic. Sorry, can I use mic? Cannot use mic.
You can hold it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we think that it's disgusting for them, for on the government side, to be okay with people who are potentially innocent to die on the battlefield. We think that it is disgusting for them to think that it's okay for someone in prison to be shanked and, let's say, to be injured, for them to die out just because of a previous crime they have been committed, that they have committed. Ladies and gentlemen, we think that it is disgusting that on the government side, they do not at all fight for a principle of humanity. Now, what has side opposition proven to you today? What are the main issues in today's debate? The main issue in today's debate, first, would be do militants really have the right to receive humanitarian aid even after committing war crimes? And secondly, which side better improves the future? Now, firstly, on to what government has said. Government has told you that, hey, they've broken a social contract. A social contract would mean that if you kill someone else, then you fulfill your own rights to live. So they told you that, hey, social contract applies here, because now that they committed war crimes, that they've killed innocent people, that you don't have any more rights. We tell you that no, because one, we've already proven to you that these people are potentially innocent, and because in most cases they are forced to join the militant groups to begin with, because their families were threatened, because their own lives were threatened altogether. And number two, we told you that even if they aren't innocent, we still need to help them because we think that they still need to be alive to serve retribution altogether to begin with. No, sit down. So, what else have they told you today on the government side? On the government side, they've told you that even after committing crimes, that we will still be providing aid to these people, and they still insist throughout the whole of government bench that humanitarian aid includes giving, let's say, rice grains. She used rice grains at her opening line to give you food, to give medical care and everything. We tell you under our side that humanitarian aid does not include food, resources and such. It does not include weapons, does not include missionary. We simply think that humanitarian aid only includes medical services and to heal up the injured. And also, we told you, secondly, that we've also proven to you under most cases how they aren't guilty, and even if they are guilty, these humanitarian organizations cannot decide on the battlefield who is guilty and who isn't, and should instead be taken to court and let the court decide. Now, what else has government today come up to tell you? Government today has told you that these people still have the choice to flee from these war zones and not to join ISIS. We tell you that under most cases that these people do not have the resources to live to begin with, and that these people are then forced and then being coerced, as my Prime Minister has already told you, into joining militant groups. And fourth, what else have they told you today? They've also come up and tried to prove to you that they have them think twice before actually joining militant groups, where we've already proven to you time and time again that when you are forced and threatened at gunpoint, you really don't have a choice unless you die on that spot or you go out and take your chances out there. They really aren't really so-called disincentivized under their case. Before I move on, yes. Oh, not okay. Good. Okay. Anyway, moving on. What else have they told you today? They told you today, and Kaman told you that we don't know if they are guilty. They tried to say that we have contradicted ourselves because we say that we don't know if they are guilty and that we are forcing them to rehab anyway. We tell you that these rehabilitation centers will only be given as an option to these people and not have them forced. Well, I already offered this now. We already told you that these people are not forced into these rehabilitation centers, are simply given options to be taught either why that these things are wrong and not to force them into these rehabilitation centers until court can prove otherwise. So, and what else have government side told you today? Government side has also told you that people can leave whenever whenever incentivized to do otherwise. We've told you that this is not an option. Why? Let's go into what side opposition has told you today. Side opposition has come up and proven to you that the innocence of war criminal is very evident, and in most cases is so. Why? Because they are forced to do these things due to all the reasons I've already given to you under my so-called rebuttal under government side. We've proven to you that principles of humanitarian aid, how this setting happens on both sides. One setting would be on the war, in the war zone itself, and one where people are captured. We tell you that people who are captured deserve this humanitarian aid because why? They are probably innocent and they have not been proven guilty otherwise. And even if they are guilty, we think that we should leave that to the choice and to the jurisdiction of the court. What else have we told you today? We've also told you that even under the side of war zones where people are to be shot at and to come out of the war zones alive, we think that the fact that they even come out of the war zone to begin with probably means that they are incapacitated and they cannot fight the war anymore. And even in the rare cases where people are actually able to still go back to war and fight, these cases are rare enough, and we think there is a check and balance to save innocent lives of the people, militants on the ground. And what else have we told you today? We've proven to you that the safety of first aiders, volunteers, will be compromised, and that this will be very detrimental to our society in general. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you think that opposition side has proven to you that humanity is what we should fight for, if you think that we should fight for humanity, please go with side opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To start the reply portion, I would like to invite the opposition reply.
The main goal of side opposition in today's debate has been to save as much civilian life as possible. Their side inside government has done absolutely nothing to prove to us that more civilian life won't be lost. Their side has done absolutely nothing to prove that there will be more bloodshed on their side, on our side than on their side. Now, to win today's debate, we have to do a few things today. We have to prove to you that these militants deserve the same rights and their rights should not be forfeited for actions which they committed or others committed. Now, how did we do this today? We proved to you that these people are in fact in most cases coerced into joining. And even if they weren't coerced into joining and they joined for just causes, they should not be blamed for the actions of others within their groups. We proved to you that in the majority of cases, people do not have the option of fleeing once they have joined because they will be hunted down and treated as deserters. We proved to you in today's debate that these people do in fact deserve rights, and on top of that, at the end of the day, the only way which you can get retribution for the victims of these crimes against humanity is through the humanitarian aid being given to them and ensuring that they do survive. Now, which side ends conflict with less innocent bloodshed and which side creates more violence? Now, this is an issue which they tried to bring up on their side. We told you on side opposition time and time again that under our side, it is far more likely that militant groups will not attack humanitarian centers, thus killing civilian lives. We told you it is far more likely that more people will be able to receive aid because there will be more humanitarian aid givers on the ground and less being killed by these militant groups. It proved to you that our side helps save more lives, more innocent lives than their side does. We also proved to you that there will be less violence in the future on our side than on their side. Because on their side, they are proposing that we do not side, that we side with one side and send the message that one side is stronger than the other, one side is better, and that you do not deserve the same rights as everyone else simply because you live in Syria, simply because you want to fight against the people who are invading. We have no place to decide who is right in a war and who is wrong. And we tell you that their side is more likely to create more radical people who want to join these militant groups and want to become terrorists. Now, which will this policy of not treating the people who are in militant groups reduce the recruitment and cause people to leave? Now, we also proved this to you, and I've already mentioned this, it has been reiterated throughout the entirety of the opposition bench that it will not reduce recruitment, and even if it does, there will still be a fresh supply of people joining, because now you are radicalizing more people. So even if some people's rational calculus comes into the equation and they decide not to join, there will be more people who are more radicalized because they are not receiving aid. So we tell you that that counterpoint completely negates their entire point. Now, which side protects humanitarian organizations' interests best? We tell you that only our side does this, and there was absolutely no response from their side. We told you that humanitarian organizations stand for the rights of everybody, and that these organizations do not have the right to decide who is right and who is wrong. So, for the betterment of these post-conflict societies and in the middle of conflict societies, go with side opposition.
Thank you very much. To conclude the grand finals of the first Rotary Interact Debating Championship, I would like to invite the government reply.
Very good morning once again. Once again, we would like to emphasize that the motion was this House would not give humanitarian aid to members of militant groups which have been found to have committed crimes against humanity. Again, we were speaking about extremist militant groups like the ISIS and Al-Qaeda, whereas they kept emphasizing on how these people may be innocent. But yes, we are speaking about those who have been found to already have committed crimes against humanity. The first speaker talked about rehabilitation centers and innocence. We replied by saying that rehabilitation centers are a first world solution to a third world country or third world problems. This is a problem mismatch, and it's highly unlikely that it can actually be implemented in these countries. The second opposition speaker also spoke about how you are making yourself an enemy of these militant groups. To which we responded, we are incentivizing these people to leave these militant groups or to not join these militant groups in the first place. We are looking at the bigger picture. We are not just looking at humanitarian centers, we are looking at civilians. Humanitarian aid is defined as material and logistical assistance provided for humanitarian purposes, typically in response to humanitarian crises, including natural and man-made disasters. We have said that security is considered aid, and by continuing to give these people resources, we have also said that this is taking away security of civilians. Think about the innocent lives that have been taken away. We are trying to solve this conflict by using our mechanism, which is to take away the humanitarian aid from these people so that eventually militant groups will cease to exist or will be reduced. Once again, I would like to emphasize that by giving them food and by giving them resources, we are giving them the energy to pull the trigger that will kill innocent lives. By giving them shelter, we are giving them a place to find more slaves and rape more women. Guys, people, ladies and gentlemen, think about the people. Think about the innocent lives that have been lost every day. We from the government team argue that this is the way, and by taking away humanitarian aid from members of militant groups that have already been found to have committed crimes, we will be able to reduce the number of militant groups, and we will be able to overcome this problem in the future. And with that, I conclude that we continue with our stance, that is, once you have acted inhumanely, you have lost the right to be treated like a human in times of distress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the debaters for what was an excellent grand finals. I would like to invite them to cross the floor, shake hands. I would like to invite everyone to mingle whilst the judges deliberate.